tell what I felt. I was unrecognizable to myself.
Streets of Philadelphia is probably the best known of all the many music for film credits Bruce Springsteen has achieved across his long career. 381 of them, according to IMDb. Bruce is also credited as both actor and producer on 13 full-length film releases, including the 3 we're going to talk about today. So this is not a retrospective / appreciation of Bruce's many great albums and legendary tours. That's coming in a main show, and, well, there's a lot, and we look forward to it, but not for today. Instead, to mark the recent release of Road Diary, we picked 3 Springsteen films to talk about. They're all really well done. Each is compelling in its own way. First up will be the 2005 documentary Wings for Wheels, the making of Born to Run. From there, we'll talk about an absolute barn burner of a concert film, the 1979 Legendary No Nukes Concert, which finally came out in 2021. We'll then discuss the latest one, Road Diary, which dropped just a couple weeks back. Road Diary is out on the Hulu Disney Plus streaming service, and you'll find it right on top. If you don't have those services, don't worry. All 3 are available in both digital and physical formats at brucespringsteen.com. As noted, tons of options for a Springsteen on Screen podcast episode. We picked these 3 because, in our highly subjective reckoning, they're good points of entry for a casual fan or someone new to Springsteen who wants to see what all the fuss is about. Perfect to share with that special someone who just hasn't got Bruce yet. Hey, that's the way I started. We do have a couple of honorable mentions we would love to have talked about those films too, but this is a short, so here goes real quick. First up, Springsteen on Broadway from 2018. Really, what else to say about it that hasn't already been said? It's brilliant, a 2.5-hour tour de force, and it holds up to multiple viewings. So go ahead, watch it again. That's one of the easiest recommendations ever. Netflix or at brucespringsteen.com, by the way. Here's a somewhat related fun fact. Bruce is just missing the E in what's called an EGOT. 4 nominations for Emmys, including one this year for a really funny guest cameo on Curb Your Enthusiasm, but no statue yet. Bruce has won 20 Grammy Awards, that's the G, and he famously bagged an Oscar, the O, in 1994 for Streets of Philadelphia. Springsteen on Broadway is the T. It won a well-deserved Special Tony Award in 2018. Our other honorable mention is a sleeper pick. It's not a Bruce Springsteen film per se, but it was done with his blessing and approval. Blinded by the Light, released in 2019. It's a comedy drama based on a true story about a very unlikely, but nonetheless devoted young Springsteen fan. It's directed by Gurinder Chadha. The story takes place in the UK, and we're not going to give away any more than that. Even if you're kind of lukewarm about Bruce, Blinded by the Light will win you over with its rock and roll heart and its sweet, unpretentious charm. 89% from the critics and 91% from the movie fans on Rotten Tomatoes. Want to relax on the couch this winter with a feel-good movie? Well, this is a great pick. All right. Time to get chrome wheel fuel injected and step out over that line right after some housekeeping.
Podcast is intended to be education and commentary. It will discuss adult themes and may use coarse language. Pantheon Podcasts presents Rock and Roll Archaeology with host Christian Swain. Music, culture, technology, and rock and roll. And now, on with the show.
Hello, my fellow rock and roll archaeologists. Are we ready to dig into another piece of the greatest story ever told? That being the music of the second half of the 20th century. Welcome to another short as we build the next installment of the big show. And I'll give a little preview here. The Starman is our main man. Bowie and glam will be the subject of episode 26. The research is mostly done, the writing is more than halfway, and we think by the end of the year it'll be in your earbuds. So hang on to yourself. So Bowie soon, but today it's Bruce. You know, they crossed paths and were mutual admirers throughout their long careers. Rather interesting that these two are taking up all of our time right now, since my North Star has always been the man from Bromley, and Richards is without doubt the boss. It's like Christmas around here. Okay, a little bit of business. Visit the website, rock'n'archaeology.com. If you like some merch that TeePublic makes for us, you can find it there. Think about joining Patreon. Even $1 a month would be greatly appreciated. If you are a member of the Rock and Archaeology Patreon, there are chances to win some swag when we do drawings. So become a superfan and win. And if you want more rock and roll knowledge, use what we use for a huge chunk of our research these days. rocksbackpages.com is where it's at. And I will add that I am recording this on Election Day here in the U.S., so I hope you took your civic responsibility seriously, educated yourself, and actually voted. Now, don't care who, just that you did the sacred thing we started this entire country for is all. And if you live in the Santa Clarita, California area, well, the only person we sincerely hope you voted for was our sound man extraordinaire and community college trustee, Jerry Danielsen. Okay, a quick break for our sponsors to help pay the bills, and we'll get right into it. Before we launch, a little teaser. We have a surprise at the end of the show for you, something we learned about as we were in production, and it was just too exciting not to share. So we added it in as a postscript, if you will. Stick around for that. So let's do it! This is another RNRA short, and we're calling it Springsteen on Screen. As 1974 began, Bruce Springsteen had 2 albums out. Good reviews, but lukewarm sales. He fronted a smoking band, and together they'd worked hard and built a regional following as a great live act. Still, though, a club-level artist who, so far, hadn't lived up to the initial hype. For his 3rd album on Columbia Records, it was hit or go home. Everyone understood that. Watching Wings for Wheels, it's apparent that, despite the pressure, Bruce was not especially nervous. Rather, he was determined and confident in his creative vision. His ideas were white hot. He knew he was onto something. And crucially important, his new manager, John Landau, understood and shared that feeling. It's mind-blowing to see how young Bruce Springsteen was during the creation of Born to Run. A lean, scruffy kid in his mid-20s, awkward and, honestly, not very good at communicating. Unprepossessing in his worn-out t-shirt and floppy knit hat. During the Born to Run sessions, Bruce didn't just switch managers. There were some key personnel changes in the E Street Band as well. 3 newcomers, drummer Max Weinberg, keyboardist Roy Bittan, and guitarist Steve Van Zandt joined Clarence Clemens on sax, Gary Tallon on bass, and Danny Federici on keys. These guys are the touring and recording lineup for the next decade or so. Wings for Wheels, the making of Born to Run, came out in 2005 to commemorate the 30th anniversary of the album. It was directed by Tom Zimney, and Tom will come up again. We open with 2005 Bruce, sporting a goatee and wraparound shades, driving through his old hometown, calling off names and places. The doc mixes this commentary with archival footage and interviews. We especially enjoyed the mixing board conversations where Bruce comments on some of the outtakes and near misses. And it must be said, some big misses. They burned a lot of hours and a lot of tape making that album. Bruce's final thoughts on Born to Run, rendered while cruising down Jersey streets in his old Chevy, resonate with his identity as a working musician. After all the struggles of getting there, he reminds us, once you've made it, sometimes all that's left to do is just sit back and listen. They could have ended it right there, and it would have been perfect. That brings us to one nitpick with Wings for Wheels. After the credits, Springsteen and Zimny tack on about a half hour of previously unseen concert footage. For hardcore Springsteen fans, it's great to hear old chestnuts like Spirit in the Night and Thundercrack. But we feel like they should have used it as bonus content or done something else to set it apart. Coming right after this tightly presented story that moves from tough odds to triumph, the grainy concert footage at the end feels slapped together, a little distracting maybe. Small quibble, but we've felt that every time we've watched it. Next up, the heartbreaking, earthquaking, soul-shaking, life-taking legendary E Street Band at their absolute peak. Count them off, Bruce.
I want this beat on.
There are two concert films that always end up at the top of any greatest list. 1978's The Last Waltz with the band and a bunch of guests, and from 1984, Stop Making Sense with David Byrne and Talking Heads. We love them both. Let's add a third one, the 1979 Legendary No Nukes Concert. At long last, in 2021, Bruce Springsteen and Tom Zimny acquired the 16mm footage and the soundboard audio from those shows. They digitally enhanced it, spliced the two shows together into a tight, coherent presentation, and released it to wide acclaim. It belongs on that short list of great concert films. It's a straight-up face melter. It's so, so good. As we said in the open, there's tons of Springsteen on screen out there, but this is from a time rarely captured on film. Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band during their ascendant era, right on the brink of greatness, cementing their legacy as an epic concert act. It started with a song called Roulette, written early on during the River sessions. It ended up being an outtake. It was a response to the disaster at the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant near Harrisburg, Pennsylvania on March 28, 1979. Bruce brought it down to the personal level. This would set a lifelong pattern for how he would address social and political issues in song. Roulette is the story of a young family man living in the shadow of a nuclear plant, suddenly forced to evacuate. We left the toys out in the yard, goes the opening line. In the second verse, now I've got a house full of things that I can't touch. Word gets around in the music biz. Even though it was unreleased, Jackson Browne heard Roulette. He reached out and asked Bruce to headline the last two shows of a 5-show run of benefit concerts. The proceeds would go to Musicians United for Safe Energy, or Muse. Madison Square Garden, New York City, on September 22nd and 23rd, 1979. Bruce was excited to do it. He'd wanted to get more involved politically for a while now. But he did have reservations. For one thing, the band was in the middle of recording. They'd been off the road for months. His 30th birthday was September 23rd. That would have come up while he was on stage. Mixed feelings about that. And their usual 3-hour marathon set would need to be condensed, 90 minutes max. An excerpt from the performance would be part of a documentary. Hard to believe now, but at this stage of his career, Bruce was very ambivalent about being filmed. But when it came time to hit the stage, all of those doubts disappeared. In front of an adoring hometown crowd, the E Street Band roared off the line like a 69 Chevy with a 396 fuely head and a hearse on the floor. Flanked by his trusty sidekicks Clarence Clemens and Little Steven Van Zandt, Bruce was no longer that scruffy, awkward kid we saw in Wings for Wheels. A lot had happened since the release of Born to Run. That swagger and confidence came in no small part because of those intervening years Bruce Springsteen had fought for what he believed in. And he won.
Everybody's got a hunger that can't resist. There's so much that you want, you deserve much more than this.
Here are the broad strokes. As we noted earlier during the Born to Run sessions, Bruce changed managers. Mike Appel was out, John Landau was in. Stung by the rejection, Appel hit back hard. Bruce was legally enjoined from recording any new material until the case was settled. On top of that, Appel still held the purse strings. For a while there, they couldn't even play live. There was no budget for travel and accommodations. Early summer of 1976, Bruce filed a countersuit alleging fraud, embezzlement, breach of trust, and more. Around that same time, the famed concert promoter Frank Barcelona floated Bruce a personal loan of $100,000 so he could at least get back out with the E Street and earn. They called it the Lawsuit Tour. In May of 1977, after 2 bitter years of legal wrangling, Mike Appel and Bruce Springsteen finally settled out of court. The exact terms were confidential, but on the main point of contention, publishing rights, Bruce prevailed completely. His work was now his own. We brought this up because all the legal travails had another effect. Bruce had slipped off the radar for a lot of fans. Darkness on the Edge of Town from 1978. It's a great album, one of our favorites by Bruce, but it was his only record output in a 5-year stretch. So for many, the No Nukes shows and the subsequent documentaries served as a reintroduction to the boss. And finally, with hindsight, we can see another inflection point here. No Nukes was a preview of the social awareness and activism that would become a big part of Bruce's public persona in the coming decades.
Bonsoir, Paris!
Now, jump ahead to the present day. As we write and produce this show, Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band are a year and a half deep into a marathon world tour. Since February 2023, they've been playing stadiums on 5 continents. And they're going to keep going. Some new European dates for 2025 have just been announced, and rumor has it that more North American dates are coming. Overall, it has been a triumph, but there have been some decidedly 21st century issues with the tour. In May 2023, they played Ferrara, Italy, in the aftermath of a severe flood in that community, floods that were an obvious consequence of climate change. Fans urged organizers to postpone the concert out of respect for the victims and to conserve emergency resources. Despite these calls, Ferrara's mayor and police chief allowed the show to proceed. Bruce and his team got some criticism for that. Perhaps a bit unfair, but we're not going to try to tell anyone who's been flooded out of their home how they should feel. Steve Van Zandt was moved to apologize on Twitter. He posted that they really had no idea going in. All they had been told was the field was a mess and the ground crew had to work all night to get it ready. Then, in the fall of 2023, a bunch of North American shows were postponed due to illness. At 75, Bruce Springsteen looks hale and healthy, working his horse farm in Colts Neck, New Jersey. He walks bow-legged in boots like a rock and roll cowboy, but 75 is still 75. Out on tour, Bruce came down with an ulcer. Then he had vocal issues from overwork. On top of that, he and several band members tested positive for COVID-19 and were forced to quarantine. As we write this, all the postponed shows have now been made up. On October 25th, 2024, Bruce Springsteen and Tom Zimney released Road Diary, a chronicle of the current tour. And it must be said, retrospective, perhaps even a fond farewell. The bittersweet closing chapter on 50-plus years of touring and recording with the E Street Band. Road Diary reveals some difficult news that until now had been kept private. Since 2018, Bruce's wife, Patty Scialfa, has been undergoing treatment for multiple myeloma, a rare form of blood cancer. Patty continues to perform, but only occasionally with the E Street Band. For this tour, it's a mighty 19-piece ensemble, backup singers, an extra percussionist, a full horn section, the works. They're also working from a set list that changes very little from night to night, and that's a break from a long-standing E Street Band tradition. We love the live music sequences in Road Diary. The backup vocals are especially good, thick and gorgeous harmonies on just about every song. Now, being OG Springsteen fans, we do prefer the raw power and spontaneity of the 7-piece E Street Band in the No Nukes Concert film. Just the same, Road Diary is terrific, an immersive look back at an expansive and impactful 50 years in rock and roll, and a story of a life well lived. Near the end of Road Diary, in what feels like a frank and unguarded moment, Bruce confronts mortality. And he hints at more, even if it might be without the E Street Band. But if I had to go tomorrow, he concludes, I'd be okay. Because what a fucking ride.
The road is long and seeming without end. The days just go on. But I remember you, my friend. And though you're gone, and my heart's been emptied, it seems, I'll see you in my dreams.
All right, we promised you a surprise, and you've stuck around for it, so here goes.
Our first look at Jeremy Allen White as the boss is here. 20th Century just released this first look image of the actor as Bruce Springsteen in the upcoming biopic Deliver Me From Nowhere, which explores the making of Springsteen's 1982 album, Nebraska.
On Monday, October 28th, 20th Century Fox Studios teased out some still photos from the set of Deliver Me From Nowhere. It's based on an excellent book of the same name, written by Warren Zanes and published in 2023 to good reviews and strong sales. Nebraska might be the most intriguing album Bruce has ever made, and that's really saying something. We'll save the in-depth analysis for the main show. For now, we'll just say that it's got to be the most unlikely quadruple platinum album ever. There is nothing mainstream or commercial about Nebraska.
Ain't somebody out there listen to my last prayer. High old silver road, deliver me from nowhere. Oh! Oh!
And yet, it's undeniably one of Bruce's most important and influential releases. The backstory of Nebraska and the album itself, well, that is some rich territory indeed for a thoughtful, hard-hitting film. Scott Cooper will direct, and he co-wrote the screenplay with Warren Zanes. The excellent Jeremy Allen White from the excellent show The Bear has been cast as Bruce, and he'll be singing. It's now confirmed that Jeremy Strong from Succession will play John Landau. Bruce Springsteen and John Landau are both involved in the production as story consultants. It's all just potential at this point, but we gotta say, sounds like a talented group of folks really trying to do it justice. We'll find out when it's released in 2025. See you at the box office. I'm Christian Swain. Is there anybody alive out there? Thanks for listening to Rock and Roll Archaeology on Pantheon Media. Keep up the rockin', and we'll see you soon.
Is there anybody alive out there? This is Radio Nowhere. Is there anybody alive out there? I was sitting around a dead dial. Just another lost number in a file.
Rock and Roll Archaeology is written by Richard Evans and Christian Swain. Produced and hosted by Christian Swain. All sound design and incidental music by Jerry Danielsen at Busy Signal Studios. Find all of our shows, notes, and links at pantheonpodcast.com. All songs can be found for purchase or streaming wherever you get your great music. Please pick up these amazing tracks. Contact us on social at Pantheon Podcasts on Facebook and Instagram. Tweet us at Pantheon Pods.